We are back. Another edition of MLB Pro Happy Hour is finally upon us. I am sorry for the long delay between episodes here. I think last time I was with you all, it was probably the trade deadline. So with that, I apologize. It has definitely been far too long. I know Brenton and many of you have been asking for a return episode, and I am glad to be back. I've been wanting to be here. Things got a little hectic there. But again, we're back. Today is, September 19th. We're nearing 10 or so games left in the regular season. Playoff push, playoff spots, divisions, wild cards. Everything's wide open. We have one team. The Atlanta Braves are the only team to have punched a playoff ticket as of tonight. We don't know what's going to happen elsewhere. I think we have certainly ideas of who's going to be a part of the playoffs. Some divisions, in some cases, it's a matter of in what order. But there are certain divisions, looking at UNL Central, NL West, where, frankly, we have no idea who's going to come out on top. So with that, I want to take a look around the league. 1 second. Let me make sure I have chat open in case any of you guys have comments. As always, feel free to send me a PM. Easiest way to get a hold of me. I try to keep that visible while we do this. So again, questions, comments, feel free to send them my way. But let's take a look around Major League Baseball Pro. I want to begin in the American League, specifically the American League East. Right now, the Baltimore Orioles at 95-56 have a one-game lead on the Toronto Blue Jays. The Tampa Bay Rays sit at 77-73, gunning for the second straight season above 500. The New York Yankees at 66-84. This will be the second time in MLB Pro franchise history that the Yankees are going to finish below 500. If you remember back to the inaugural season of 2012, the Yankees went 73-89. Rounding out the division, the Boston Red Sox 57-94. The rebuild continues. But on a brighter note for the Red Sox, Boston's gone 21-20 since August 1st. So while the season has been a disappointment for Red Sox fans and most of Boston has already moved on to the Patriots, there is hope in Boston. 21-20 since August 1st. It has been wondrous what the team has done ever since they've managed to get rid of Trevor Bauer from the rotation. And in a trade that, frankly, has worked for both the Red Sox and the Braves because Bauer has been magnificent for Atlanta. Over in the Central, the Twins at 91-61 appear to have the division locked up with their 5.5-game lead on Kansas City. The Chicago White Sox sit in third at 64-87. But with the likes of Bill Black, Cody Ponce, Porter Curran, and Joseph Musgrove, the White Sox have seen their team ERA go from 4.67 last year to 3.77 this year. That's fifth best in the American League. So while things didn't go right last year on the mound for the White Sox, they're going very well for them this year. If they can figure out the hitting aspect of things, the White Sox could be a team that makes a Royals-like push up the division leaderboard next season. And we know that Jonathan Hodges is looking to make a push. I expect bright things from the White Sox next season. Elsewhere in the division, we have the Tigers sitting at 58-93, a far cry from what had been a run of 4 consecutive 90-plus win seasons. We saw the trading of Steven Strasburg earlier in the year. We had a late offseason last year push of the general managerial transition. So things took a backseat this year in Detroit, but I expect to see things stabilized for next season. 1 second, sending out a link here. And then elsewhere, rounding out the division, was the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland 57-93, a half game out of the worst record in the American League. Things have not gone well for the Tribe. In the American League West this year, the Angels sit at 95-56, tied with the Orioles for the best record in the American League. They lead the division currently by 4 games over the Mariners. Not long ago, the Texas Rangers were 65-44, 2 games out of the division lead. Right after the trade deadline, it was August 1st. Since then, the Rangers have gone 17-25. It's been a disappointing final 2 months for the Rangers. Despite their 67-84 record, the A's have seen their attendance rise this season by over 3,000 fans per game, so things are looking better for Oakland. In Houston, the Astros round out the division at 62-89. They've already improved 8 games compared to last season. The Astros might not have had much success at the big league level this year, but their 7 minor league affiliates have combined to go 505 and 273. Again, 505 wins, 273 losses. That's a winning percentage of 65%. The farm system in Houston, as we've talked about numerous times before, is loaded. I don't know if it's next season. I don't know if it's 2020. But the Mariners, the Angels, the A's, the Rangers need to watch out. The Astros are coming, and the Astros are coming quickly. Over in the National League, the Braves at 92-59 lead the Mets by 4.5 games. On August 1st, though, the Mets were on top by 3 games. Since then, New York is just 22-23. The Braves are going after their second NL East championship, likely to finish the year with the best record in the National League. The Phillies at 76-74 and the Nationals at 77-75 both remain 5 games out of the wild card race at the moment. It's going to be a tough climb for both, but they each have a chance. The Marlins at 65-86 should finish the year having improved on last year's 66 win total. In the Central that has been the easy target for jokes all season long, the reigning NL champion, Cincinnati Reds, lead the division at 76-76. Again, the division's been a mess all year. Will the Reds, will any team in that division finish above 500? Good luck to those teams that on their quest to do so. The Reds have a 1-game lead on the Milwaukee Brewers, who are 75-77. In third place currently, the St. Louis Cardinals, sit 8 games back at 68-84. This will be the first time the Cardinals finish below 500 here in MLB Pro. The Pirates at 66-85 can build upon their 22-22 record here the last 2 months of the season. So again, like some of these other teams we've seen across the land, the Pirates are getting better. They're not going to have anything to show for it necessarily this year, but especially in a division where a team might not finish above 500, playing 500 baseball the final 2 months of the year gives the Pirates something to look forward to. Rounding out the Central, the Cubs have actually 2 things to look forward to. One, the season coming to an end. They're 48-103. They possess the baseball MLB Pros worst record, but they also, I guess, can look forward to the number 1 pick next year because they've got that all but locked up. It has been a disappointing season for a Cubs team that knew they were getting into a rebuild. I don't know if they expected to be this deep into that rebuild so quickly. But Cub fans, the season is almost over. You've made it through this season, so congratulations with that. The Dodgers over in the National League West have a narrow 1-game lead on the Giants and a 2.5-game lead on the Rockies. And the Padres sit 3 back right in the mix of things. While the D-backs at 71-81 will have to wait to next year for things to improve upon. Before we dig into some other things, I want to take a quicker look or a deeper look into some of these playoff battles, beginning with the just talked about National League West. The Dodgers and Rockies finish up a 3-game set at Dodger Stadium tonight. The Dodgers have won each of the first 2 games in the series so far. Tonight's game will either put the Rockies 1.5 games back or 3.5 games back behind the Dodgers. Tonight's expected starters are Craig Cooper for the Rockies and Parker Markle for the Dodgers. A key in the series so far has been the Dodgers' ability to get the pair of Will Myers and Jock Peterson out. Peterson and Myers have gone a combined 2 of 16 with 8 strikeouts so far in this series. If Myers and Peterson don't show up tonight against National League All-Star starting pitcher Parker Markle, the Rockies aren't going to come out on top. And if they fall 3.5 games out, I think they can kiss the division goodbye. Right behind the Dodgers, of course, is the San Francisco Giants, sitting just a game out of the division. They have one game remaining against San Diego before heading to St. Louis. These next 4 games are key for the Giants. They just need to survive. The Giants are under 500, 37-40 on the road for the season. If they can stay within maybe a game of the Dodgers entering their 6-game homestand to close out the year, the Giants could be the team to beat. The team, though, to me, that controls their own destiny, though, is the Padres. They have 7 games left against 7 games combined against the Dodgers and Giants, and then they finish the year with the easiest opponent in Arizona, an Arizona team likely not to have Scott Clark on the mound for that series. The Padres, though, they need to find production from someone other than Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton's hitting .373 with 6 homers here in September, but Ryan Nash and Eric Hosmer have disappeared. The Padres need production from someone other than Stanton. Not to mention a back end of the bullpen with Tejada that has fallen apart. But if you just look at this schedule, again, the Dodgers finished with 6 games on the road, including that final 3 up in the Bay Area against the Giants. The Giants have these next 4 on the road, a place they haven't been great on. And then they get this Padre team with a favorable schedule to start that final homestand. San Diego can make up ground. They play the teams they're chasing. All a while, we can't forget about the Rockies. I mean, while they're going to finish with the division before anyone else, having 7 games to close out the year at home against the NL East, they're going to need help. I think it's, especially tonight, if the Rockies don't get the win in LA, they're done. At least, again, with the standpoint of the division. The NL wild card will the top 2 teams in the NL West are going to make the playoffs. So you got to finish in that top 2. So whether it's the Dodgers and Giants, Dodgers and Padres, Giants, whatever, all 4 teams are in that. But I think the division comes down to one of those 3, the Dodgers, the Giants, or the Padres. And I think my money, as of right now, it's on either the Giants or Padres. I think even though they're the teams chasing right now, I think they're the teams that we need to keep an eye on moving forward. Back to the much maligned NL Central, the division that, again, it's just been dismal all season long. We had the Reds in the World Series last year. We had high hopes with the Brewers entering the season. We expected more from the Cardinals, and we just haven't gotten it. The division, it's going to come down to the Reds and Brewers. They finish a series tonight in Milwaukee, where the Brewers have grabbed a pair of 1-run wins in the first 2 games of the series. The Reds have seen the productions of the likes of Arenori Arai and Nolan Arredondo both fade here in September. While they're fading, the Brewers are a team we expected to fade after the trade deadline decisions, which included that of trading away Madison Bumgarner to the Rockies. They've gone 24-18 since the deadline. Without Bumgarner, I think we expected maybe their pitching to suffer. Hasn't been the case. The trio of Johnny Cueto, Josh Tomlin, Shelby Miller, they've shown increased strikeout rates and impeccable control here in September. If they're able to sweep the Reds tonight and notch up the NL Central with about 10 games to go, anything's possible. In fact, I think if they win tonight, they become the favorites in the Central. If they lose tonight, 2 games back in a division where at least those 2 teams are playing 500 ball, 2 games might be too much to ask for. Again, just not enough has gone right for the Brewers on the season to expect them to make up to 2 or more games in the final 10 days of the season. Over in the American League, while the West and Central appear to be wrapped up, the East is anything but wrapped up. After their blistering, and I'm talking blistering, 45-11 start, the Orioles have fallen back to earth just a tiny bit. Well, while I put it less on the Orioles falling back to earth, I think I'd put it more on the Jays joining the O's on the elite level in the American League. What was the difference maker for the Jays? I mean, we saw quite a few acquisitions after the general managerial switch early in the season in which Mitch Bannon came over from Colorado and took over in Toronto after George left the Jays. I think the biggest turnaround for the Jays came with their mid-season search for a first baseman designated hitter type. Did anyone expect Don Winston to give them what he's given them? Don Winston has always been known as a guy with tremendous power potential, but with a swing that connected with the ball far too infrequently before coming to Toronto. It was a risk to think that Winston was going to turn things around with the Jays. He had the potential to always hit the long ball, but he never showed the potential to hit the ball. That said, ever since joining Toronto and working with hitting coach Brooke Jacoby, Winston's turned around. He's hit 18 homers while hitting for an average of 296 and 216 at-bats with the Jays. In limited action earlier in the year with Cleveland, Winston was just hitting 163. They've added a key bat to a lineup that already had the likes of Bryce Harper and J.D. Martinez. You add also the acquisitions of, say, Jesus Montero and Andres Yanez from Oakland. And Toronto's lineup rivals that of anyone in the league. Baltimore, LA, Seattle. But Don Winston, putting him in the middle of that order, and not so much as putting him in the order, but the production they've gotten out of him, it's been the key for the Jays ever since the trade happened. Tonight, though, is a big game for Toronto and Baltimore, as they finish up their series at Camden Yards in what could be a must-win for Toronto if they hope to win the division. Baltimore finishes the year against the Yankees, Red Sox, and Astros, 3 teams at the bottom of the American League, while the Jays finish up with 2 series against the Rays and a series with the Astros. If Baltimore can extend that division lead to 2 games after tonight, I think the schedule is in their favor to not only lock down the American League East, but to lock down the best record in the American League. I think their close to this season is easier than the Angels, and I think potentially fighting with Toronto for the division gives Baltimore more incentive to play things out longer. Or more need, not incentive, but more need to play things out longer than the Angels, potentially with Seattle having fallen to 4 games back. I think Baltimore is going to reestablish themselves as the team to beat entering the American League playoffs. And tonight's starters for that series finale in Baltimore are likely to be Toronto's Cole Swanson, 10-9 on the year, 3.77 ERA for the Jays, and Lucio Cruzado, 13-6. 3.3 ERA for the Orioles. Regardless of who comes out on top of the division, though, they're 2 teams that could face each other again in the playoffs. They are both extremely talented teams, perhaps the best in the American League. It's been a fun battle to watch all season long. Tonight's series finale will be interesting to see what plays out in Baltimore. Another hot topic, or not hot topic, but another area that you guys wanted to be discussed tonight. I've got a little bit longer. I think I can go a little bit longer, so let's dive in a little bit. And that is the news or the update we were given recently on Shohei Ohtani. Back in January, we were told Ohtani was going to come over to MLB Pro after the regular season. And we were recently told that that is indeed going to remain the case. Ohtani, after another terrific season overseas, the type that shows the rare ability to be dominant both on the mound and in the batter's box. The type of player that can help a franchise continue to play at a high level, as well as the type of player that can take a franchise that hasn't been at that winning level to the winning level. It's going to be interesting to see what he's looking for. What are teams going to have to offer him? Are teams going to be focused on making him a pitcher? Are teams going to be focused on making him a hitter? Will there be teams that want him to do both? Will teams take the risk of injury? Will teams take the risk of tiring him out and seeing what he can do on both? It will be very interesting to see what becomes of him next season. I think when he steps foot into the league, he has the potential to be one of the best pitchers and one of the best hitters in the league. I expect his fastball, which has been electric, to come over and continue to be electric. A type of pitcher that could challenge for strikeout leads if given enough innings. A pitcher who can frontline rotations potentially. A batter that could anchor a lineup, frankly. It's going to be interesting to see how he transitions against major league pitchers. He has shown some deficiencies against left-handed batters, and both average and his power. Will he be able to correct that once he transitions over? What type of lineup will he want to be a part of? Will there be connections to those that have had experience playing in Asia? Again, it will be fascinating to see what his representatives have in mind for him. I don't think any of us quite know what to expect. That said, I think while we don't know what's going to come from his end of the deal, I think we can take a look, at least speculate a little bit, on what teams might be interested in making a run at Ohtani. Again, I ultimately think it's going to be an American League team that has the advantage, maybe, because of the ability to offer him both a spot in the rotation as well as the designated hitter role from time to time. Again, pure speculation. Who knows? But because of that, I want to begin the American League. And I want to begin with the team that's sitting atop the American League. I'm not sure there's any team in Major League Pro that does a better job of getting the most out of their players in the most creative way possible than the Orioles front office. The Orioles mix and match. They're willing to push boundaries. They're willing to take a risk. They're already a team near the top. Could adding Ohtani push them even further above the elite in the American League? We've seen Rob Segedin have a great year at designated hitter, but we've also heard that the Orioles at times were unhappy with him and looking to move into another direction. A team that has seen some challenges, perhaps, at the back end of their rotation. Ohtani would look great in the back end of the Orioles rotation. He'd look great in the middle of the Orioles rotation after the likes of Brady Aiken. You have some other youngsters not far behind in the Orioles minor league system, but adding Ohtani there would be an interesting team to jump off the page with. Another in the American League East that I think we have to keep an eye on would be the New York Yankees. What better way to jumpstart a rebuild would there be than to add a guy who can both hit and pitch? They already have Kyle Cody. They already have Juan Francisco. Do they have much else after either one of them? You pair Cody with Ohtani, your rotation just got better. You pair Francisco with Ohtani in the middle of your lineup just got better. It's a young Yankee team. But adding Ohtani, they get better. And it's a division that already has the Orioles, has the Jays. Two teams aren't going anywhere. Oh, by the way, let's not forget the Tampa Bay Rays. They added Steven Strasburg. They added Jordan Walden at the trade deadline. Two guys that are hurt. They're going to be back next season. Lucas Giolito, Austin Bryce. The Rays are going to be challenging the Jays and the Orioles next season. American League Central, well, I think there are a pair of teams in the Central that are going to make a push after Ohtani. Last year, the Twins went and signed Masahiro Tanaka. Why not Ohtani this year? Maybe Lance Ray moves back to the outfield. Guess what? All of a sudden, the DH spot's wide open. It's a team that has extremely team-friendly deals to its stars in both Gary Copeland and Kivia Sampson. The Twins can get creative with a contract of other players. That is, we've been told Ohtani's contract already, but it opens up the ability for them to spend on a posting fee rather, and to make moves elsewhere. I think Ohtani could fit in nicely in Minnesota. Another team in the Central, how about the White Sox? Talked about them earlier, a team with a pitching staff and bullpen that has been rebuilt in a way that has shown tremendous strides in 2018 off of a dismal 2017 season. It's a team that is looking to make a push, a team that has been in rebuild for too long to many in the front office, a team and a franchise that is ready to take a step forward. What better way to take a step forward than by adding a guy who can both hit and pitch? What better way to challenge the Twins? We've seen the Royals take a step forward, and perhaps adding Ohtani makes the White Sox take a Royals-like step forward. The Indians are in rebuild mode. The Tigers are in rebuild mode. Now's the chance for the White Sox to take a step forward. The American League West, I think the American League West could have players for Ohtani, starting with a dark horse. And I say dark horse because I think they're a team that has few holes. I'm talking the Seattle Mariners. Danny Holton could be on the way out of the rotation, but Justin Hooper's likely joining the rotation. We've seen Kevin Comer have tremendous success. We've had Dylan Bundy had tremendous success. Felix Hernandez, despite one bad start, has had another Felix Hernandez type year, and Nathan Eovaldi is going to be challenging for the AL Cy Young. Ohtani's not a need, but he'd fit in nicely at the back end of that rotation. A team that added Manny Machado this year, that added Mark Baker not long ago. But they're a team that's always been without a DH. Adding Ohtani would make the Mariners the front runner in the American League West and in the American League. I don't think there's any way around that. I think there's two other teams in the American League West that could make a run that would push them up a notch or two on the proverbial ladder in the American League West, and that would be the Oakland A's and the Houston Astros. Oakland has always been looking to compete with the big boys in the West. They have spots in the rotation and the lineup. They went after Sonny Gray. It didn't work out this past season. David Price. We saw Houston yesterday announce a pending partnership with Suzuki Motors. As we talked about earlier, they're the team of the future. Could they land a face that brings the fans back to Houston? They have pieces. You add another one in Ohtani, and those other pieces just got even better. And that 2020, perhaps, timeline of when the Astros become relevant in the American League West could be pushed up to 2019. And again, while I think the American League teams have the favorite, I think it's far too early to rule out the National League. I think there are plenty of teams in the National League that could get creative. There are plenty of teams in the National League on the verge of something where Ohtani could make a difference. We saw it with the Marlins last year. They were willing to go after Miguel Cabrera and commit a large sum of money to him. They're still chasing the Braves and the Mets. Could going after Ohtani be a move that the Marlins are willing to make? Another team in the East, how about the Nationals? They've been on the cusp of something before. Could Ohtani push them over the hump? I've heard the Reds are interested. Could another World Series appearance make the Reds the landing spot? We talked about a Central team. Could the Cubs make a run? The Cubs need a building piece for the future. This rebuild has been destructive to fans in Chicago. Fans are now more excited for a rebuilding Chicago Bulls team than they are for a rebuilding Chicago Cubs team. Could they make a move? I think it's far too early to tell at this point in time who exactly is the favorite for Ohtani. but I think there are going to be plenty of teams interested between now and Ohtani's venture over to the league. With sim time approaching about 10 minutes away, it looks like, I want to take a look at potential expected starters tonight. And then I plan on being back with you guys here in the next week, perhaps this weekend. And give me a couple days and we'll be back. We have more things to cover. We'll take another look at the playoff push. We have awards to look after. Maybe a look into pending free agents, moves we expect to see in the deadline. Maybe we have some players that we see being moved between now and the start of the 2019 season. We can take a look at a lot of things here in the next week as the playoff push becomes more clear. The playoff picture becomes more clear. So we're going to follow that. So let's take a look at tonight's probable starters to get a better look at what to expect here down the final stretch of the season. We have some day baseball today in Detroit as the Twins take on the Tigers with Kevius Sampson taking on Brett Anderson. Another day baseball game over in Texas as the Tampa Bay Rays travel to Texas. Austin Bryce taking on Tadakudi Fujita of the Rangers. NL East battle, the Mets take on the Phillies. Jonathan Neese, 12-6, 3.08 ERA, takes on Brad Peacock of the Phillies, 12-13, 3.44 ERA. The aforementioned battle in Baltimore, the Jays and the Orioles, 6:05 Eastern Time. First pitch, Cole Swanson, 10-9, 3.77 ERA. Lucio Cruzado, 13-6, 3.3 ERA. The St. Louis Cardinals travel to Atlanta to finish out their series. The St. Louis Cardinals are expected to start Antonio Cruz. The Atlanta Braves are expected to start Matt Barnes. Kansas City and Pittsburgh, an interleague battle of American League and National League Central teams. The Royals are throwing Yu Darvish. The Pirates are throwing Chris Scalise. The fierce Boston-New York Red Sox-Yankees rivalry takes another step forward tonight. We have Neftali Feliz on the mound for the Red Sox and Chris Gray on the mound for the Yankees. NL Central rivalry, White Sox-Indians, Porter Kieran on the mound for the White Sox, Henderson Alvarez for the Indians. Much like the Jays and the O's, the game of the night in the National League is the Reds and the Brewers. Hudson Boyd on the mound for the Reds, 3-2, 1.96 ERA for the Reds. Shelby Miller, 8-13, 4.3 ERA for the Brewers. The Seattle Mariners take on the Houston Astros tonight. Dylan Bundy, 13-6, 3.05 ERA, take on highly touted Astros, Angels, killer, Pat Crosby, 7-13, 4.67 ERA for the Astros. The Chicago Cubs, the number one pick team with the number one pick in the 2019 MLB Pro Draft, take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We have the Major League debut for Alex Ramirez for the Cubs, taking on Zach Rivera for the D-backs. Important game in the National League West tonight. We have the Giants and the Padres. Bryce Bandia, 12-5, 2.96 ERA, taking on Jake Odorizzi, 8-9, 4.15 ERA for the Padres. Out on the West Coast, late night baseball, we have the Angels in Oakland tonight. Chris Archer on the mound for the Angels. Jeremy Benson on the mound for the A's. Finally, the Rockies, the Dodgers, the battle atop the National League West. Will the Dodgers remain there after tonight? We have Craig Cooper of the Rockies, 10-7, 3.39 ERA for the Rockies. Parker Markle, 18-5, 2.7 ERA for the Dodgers. That's a look at tonight's action. I'm glad you guys stopped by and joined me for a look across the league tonight. We have plenty of baseball left. It's only 10 games, but we have difference makers out there. Who's going to play the role of spoiler? Who's going to play the role of hero? Who's going to be celebrated? Who's going to be jeered? We have a lot to figure out, and I'm going to be back with you guys soon to take another look at things as we continue here down this final stretch of the MLB Pro baseball season. Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it being back with you. We're going to do this again soon. Take